Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk, back again with another project for you. And I always say that. Anyway, that's exactly what I'm here to do. And this time it's using a couple of some new products that we've got, which is the fabulous Beauty Abound stamp set. And this is really lovely because it's got lots of super friendship sentiments and some pretty accent images. But the real special bit about this is the die cuts. You'll see that the die cuts, there are so many of them, I've had to put them in a case all of their own. And you've got these two enormous panels of butterflies. And what I've actually done is cut away two of those butterflies, which are this one and this one. So that one, remember, comes off. Yeah, that's off the top, and that one's off the bottom. Round about that. Here you go. Easier to show you on this stuff. On it comes off the side here. If I show you, so actually it's there. So it comes off. So down there. So I just wanted to use some of them because they're just so pretty. And so the lovely thing about these is because you've got two dies, one cuts this kind of background layer and the other one cuts the detailed layer to go on the top. So you layer them up and you get this fabulous effect depending on what colour cardstock. So part of this is a bit of a kind of an assembly to show you, but some of it is also giving you some hints and tips on the dies. And I'm also using, this is really a die heavy card, you'll see these stitched rectangles, which are also a lovely new product. So this, again, I talk about number of dies. This is the number of dies that you get in the stitched rectangles set. And what's fabulous is that you can see here, not only do they cut a stitched rectangle on the inside, but they cut it on the outside too. So you can see there, you've got an outside, which then means that you can create frames. So to show you what I mean, by using, let me move this out of the way, by using the next size up, you cut around that outer and you can then get a stitched frame completely with stitching. So they are really, really great. They are sort of sized for US cardstock layers. However, you know, we're lucky in the UK because we've got our longer cardstock. We can still make use of these. So you don't need to worry about that. And it isn't a problem, but that's why the card measurements might be slightly different to normal. So let's go with what we need to start off with. We're going to make a card base, obviously, to start off with. So I'm using some thick Whisper White cardstock here, and the reason for that is because I'm making a 10-fold but a portrait card. I'm cutting it on the top, and therefore I want it to stand up nice and straight. So I've already trimmed my cardstock and I've had it a little bit ragged, so I'm just going to quickly just sand down that edge there. Just a nail sanding block gets rid of it. So I've cut this piece of cardstock to 4 inches by 10 3/4 inches, and I'm then going to score it at 5 3/8. So that just creates a nice 10-fold card. And that's what we're going to use for our basic card. Then you'll see I'm coming in with a layer here of Coastal Cabana, and I've cut this to 3 5/8 by 5 inches, and that can go straight onto our, oh, my snail is skipping a little. So that goes onto my card base, and I'm going to start off with some stamping of my panel and my card base. So I've already die cut that stitched rectangle that I showed you, and then I'm going to come in and we're going to do some Coastal Cabana, and this is the little sort of small bokeh bubble, and this is the larger one which I'm going to do in Bermuda Bay. Now these are the distinctive stamps, so if your ink pads, these two are both quite juicy because they're quite new, because they're nice new ones. And if you find that that they're getting a little bit splodgy, all you need to do is get preferably a plastic spoon rather than your nice bone folder. But of course I can't see my plastic spoon, so just move the ink, so you're not getting rid of it, but can you see the ink pad just going slightly lighter there, hopefully. There you go. And all I've done is just moved the ink slightly to one side, so that it's not quite so intense. Because our ink pads store upside down, if they are new, it means they are super juicy, which usually is fantastic for stamping. There's nothing worse than a dry ink pad, but on this occasion it's not quite so good. And then all you do is just come in and just stamp our bokeh dots. And again, I'm just inking up once this time because I know my ink pad is quite juicy. And you get this beautiful shaded effect already. I've done the same already with my larger one. I'm just going to come in. You see this kind of really pretty effect. And it doesn't take much to give this lovely shaded bubbles. And you'll see I'm doing what I've said before about stamping off and stamping over the edge, and that does give it an extra dimension. If you just stamp in the middle, it kind of doesn't quite look right. Looks somehow unfinished, but by doing that it really gives an effect, pretty effect. So that's our stamping for our front panel. So I'm going to pop that to one side to dry. I'm going to pop my Bermuda Bay ink pad away, and I'm going to come in with my old smoky slate, which I'm going to use, and I'm going to just grab a block and just pick up a bit of Coastal Cabana ink on that block there before I put it away. Now, on the inside of my card, I'm going to stamp this super frame, and again coming off the edge slightly. So I'm starting down at the bottom. Okay, so down at this bottom corner, like so. And again like so. So I've got the floral image there. Come back in with my block, and I've just got an aqua painter here. You could use a brush and just pick up a little bit of ink, and I'm just going to come in and very lightly, really subtly, just colour those flowers. So I'm just picking up the same theme and colour as on the front of my card, and this is a lovely way to really give your cards a really sort of polished finish, is by carrying that theme through. And then the final bit of that we've talked about before is to decorate the envelope. So what I shall do with this one is probably put this spray either across the back of the envelope, on the back flap, or I might put it in the bottom corner on the front. I know when I receive cards from my crafting friends and my team, it is lovely to see the stamping on the front. It's like, I know this is a Stampin' Up card. Or from a really crafty person. That's not to say I don't appreciate the other cards as well, but it just gives you an extra little stuff, a bit of a frisson of excitement. Okay, so there's the inside of my card. So now what I'm going to do is pop my stitched rectangle layer straight onto the card. So keeping those flat. You could pop this up on dimensionals if you wanted to. But I'm just going to keep it because I've got a fair amount of dimension already with my butterflies, and you'll just see I've got a narrower border on here. So there we go, there's our card layer. So now what I'm going to do is talk to you about the framelits. Now, some people find that when they're getting the framelits out, they're struggling and they're tearing the card. And there's just a couple of tips that I do. I mean, first of all, what I do is when I'm not using it as a frame, I just take that and I peel that backwards to get rid of the outer piece. Then what I do is I come in with my thumb just on the edge to release it, and I find that really seems to work for me. So just pressing along just up close to that framelit, going around all four sides, and I find then that releases really well. On to the die cut butterflies. So I've cut my background one already and released that, and this is where, again, another tip I would say is to use the die brush. This is the die brush we've got, and it really helps not only release it from the die, but it also gets out the little pieces. And this is to show the difference. So on this one I didn't use my die brush, and you can see I've got some pieces still stuck in there. Now okay, it's not a problem to go through and pop those out, but with the die brush it just makes it quicker and easier, and they tend to so they all just come out. So that's my base die. I just run that over, all the way over, usually on the foam, but I've already done that, and that will then release. And then this is the sort of tips for gluing these together. So you can use the adhesive sheets as well if you want to. I find that fine tip glue is fine, so you can either use our fine tip glue, or this is a bottle where I've put some Tombow into a fine tip glue dispenser. These are available from kind of craft shops, and what I do is I just make sure I just look for the largest possible bits where I've got, and I just kind of touch, and when it's a really good quality glue, one, it'll dry clear anyway, so if any bits to show through, it'll dry clear, but I just dot it all the way around quite quickly, just making sure I kind of touch, really, if you like, all the corners. So I make sure I put a bit on the outer of all of the wings, a bit on the body, because especially with butterflies, actually if they release the edges of the wings, it doesn't matter too much, because obviously it gives you the kind of layered effect for your butterfly as well. So there we go. So I've just done the bodies here, as you can see, again coming on these outer bits, and I'm just putting tiny little dots of glue. It worked quite quickly because obviously the glue will start to dry out, and once you've done put your little dots on, all I do then is just carefully, so I don't get all gluey, which I'm really good at doing, and I then choose the biggest bit to line up. So I go, right, okay, I'm going to line up that big bit of the butterfly and pop that in the middle, and then you can work out and quickly just line those bits up, and there you have a super layered die cut as easily as that. I'd say you don't need to see me die cutting, but you know, obviously you put those through. I use a standard plate, but then with a metal shim, and all I'm going to do now is come through, but you can use your detailed plate, detailed die if you want, or some people, as they prefer, to put some shims in and layers. It's really what works for you and for your machine. Everybody's machine is slightly different. Now I've just trimmed those butterflies are going to be kept in with my dies for future use. And then before I stick this down, I'm going to put my dimensionals, and you know me, I don't like to waste a thing, so I cut this is a perfect one for using up all those little bits of surround from your dimensionals. Get them on there, you know, it doesn't matter if it's a little strip, that's fine. But it seems a shame to leave those bits on there, doesn't it? Oh, okay, a bit extra, and then just take those off. And then bring your card in, and I do just eyeball these. You can measure if you prefer, particularly when you're new. You tend to measure more. After a while, like me, you just kind of go, well, it'll be whatever. And again, I'm using wet glue with this because I just want to make sure I've got a bit of wiggle room. And I'm just going to pop it down on that central bit, and you'll see I'm going to put it on this panel here, on that bottom corner, like so. And probably a little bit up here. And again, because this, you know, this is going to, then it just gives the effect of kind of floating butterflies. And there you have a beauty abounds. You can then add whatever sentiment you like to the inside. I've said before, sometimes I love making cards, and what I do is I keep them to one side ready so that when I need one, I can then add a sentiment. This is a card that would easily suit Mothering Sunday, but it would be a super card for you to give a friend. It could be used for all sorts of occasions. Butterflies really are versatile, and this card, if you did it in different colourways, could look so different. So you never know, you might see some different versions. And don't forget, decorate your envelope and the inside of your card. Thanks for watching. Come back and see me again soon, and pop along to my shop, heidismith.stampinup.net, to buy your supplies, or go along to my blog, flutterbyheidi.co.uk, and you'll find I'll put the dimensions on there, as well as links to my shop there as well. Thanks for watching. Bye now.